Hey guys, today I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about the 6 nutritional foundations to set us up for a long life of optimal health and wellness. The 6 nutritional foundations are a properly prepared nutrient-dense diet, digestion, blood sugar regulation, fatty acids, minerals, and hydration. Starting with the properly prepared nutrient-dense diet, it's really crucial to see this as literally the number one out of all of the foundations because it's setting up the building blocks of how we want to live our life to all the way down to the cellular level, to our tissues, to our organs, and our systems, and everything that comprises of who we are. Now, some of the basics of this: understanding that our body requires macro and micronutrients in order to function. The macronutrients are carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, and our micronutrients compose of your vitamins and minerals. And it's really important when we're eating these things that we are understanding where we're sourcing them and where we're coming from. So if you're sourcing any meat, for example, you want it grass-fed, any poultry or eggs, you definitely want to be pasture-raised. And when you're eating seafood, you definitely want it to be wild-caught. As far as fruits and vegetables, eating something that's seasonal, organic preferably, and eating a wide variety of fruits and vegetables as well, and diversity in your meals. And it's also important in how we're prepping it as well, and understanding the different temperatures in which to cook things, and how to really optimize on, making sure we have the correct cookware in the kitchen, and setting our kitchen up in our life to really maximize just eating, again, a properly prepared nutrient-dense diet. Number 2 is digestion. And many of us hear you are what you eat, but there's a massive part of that you don't often hear, which is you are what you absorb. And it's totally true, because we can eat all the healthy foods that we want, but if we're not actually absorbing the nutrients of those healthy foods, then none of it really matters. I always think of this picture I saw growing up of a squirrel that was laying down on a therapist chair and saying, "I heard you are what you eat, and I must be nuts." And it's always really funny to me thinking about digestion, because we need to remember that digestion begins in the north to south process. So if our brains aren't in a state where we need them to be, otherwise known as your parasympathetic or rest and digest state, then everything else trickling below it all the way to its exit will not be optimized. We will be in what we call a sympathetic state, otherwise known as our fight or flight, and often being that can throw off so many things like our pH of our system. And we don't want our stomach to be too acidic. We also don't want it to be too basic. Your stomach acid in general, there's so many little components of it that really matter. And so really optimizing on remembering when we're eating, we need to be in a relaxed, breathing, gratitude expressing state, not in a rush, and typically how our society eats nowadays, on the go. And then that way, everything, when we're up here and we're seeing it, we're smelling it, we're tasting it, releasing the saliva, and then going all the way down, we can really use all the nutrients that we're eating. And remembering that our gut is our second brain. So however we are up here is also how we're down here. And remembering that 80% of our immune system is located in our gut. So if this is off and this is off, our immune system, and fighting off so many harmful things out there, and also getting rid of our own toxins, isn't going to be possible. So it's really important to remember to relax, breathe, and really enjoy the eating process. Coming in at number 3 is blood sugar regulation. And this is one of my favorites for so many different reasons. Blood sugar is the amount of glucose, or our fuel from what we eat, circulating around in our bodies. And if it's too high or too low, it can cause a massive amount of problems. So it's really important to understand that blood sugar, in essence, has massive control and effects on small and large functions within our body. And that these functions in blood sugar are largely affected by many things outside of us, but also things that we can control. Our environmental factors play a role in blood sugar. What we're eating with today's society, there's a lot of highly processed foods that unfortunately impact us, that are also contain a lot of sugar, that are hidden, or ones that we're just kind of ignoring, and making sure that we're really choosing more nutrient-dense whole foods, so this isn't an issue. Other things like the stress that we have nowadays, poor sleep quality. There's studies out that show that even just one night's sleep that isn't great and low in sleep can throw you in a pre-diabetic state the next day. And we really want to optimize not being too hypoglycemic or too much blood sugar and too low hypoglycemic, and really finding this nice balance, equilibrium for ourselves, and also finding out what foods work for us and what foods work against us. The fourth nutritional foundation are fatty acids. Now, fatty acids are quite fascinating. It's just the word fat in general in this society. It's a really bad stigma, but they're actually so crucial for so many different things like hormone balancing and reducing inflammation and fuel, etc. And thinking about fat is, as far as energy, for example, carbohydrates are like the lighter fluid on a fire to really get it going and really quick. But when we're talking about fats, fats are those logs that you're putting on the fire to keep it going over time and to provide long length energy. And that's where we really want to focus on. And they also fats produce prostaglandins, and there's 3 kinds in our body, and they can be derived from essential fatty acids or fatty acids that our body cannot produce. And I'm talking about the omega-3s, the omega-6s, and we also have sources from omega-9s and saturated fats like butter. And it's really important that though when we're seeking fatty acids, remembering to eat them, how we're sourcing them, because a lot of our diet nowadays, it has a lot of trans fats, really rancid, not good oils, cheap oils, where it's doing more harm to our body. And so we're not getting this nutrition that we need and being deficient in a lot of essential fatty acids. So it's really important to keep that in mind and to not provide a bad stigma to the essential fatty acids. The nutritional foundation are minerals, and minerals are something that we don't produce, and so we have to eat them in order to help our body function on them, because they provide so many amazing roles for our body. And even when we die, all of the ash that's left are the minerals that our body was made of. So what we take from the earth, we give back, which is pretty fascinating. And minerals play many different roles in our body. So we have contraction and relaxation of our muscles. We have our bone and skeletal system. They play as cofactors with different functions within our body. They provide communication amongst our nerves and a whole variety of different things. And it's really important to remember that, again, we don't produce these. So eating things that have calcium, potassium, magnesium, sulfur, etc., those are a macro mineral. And we also have micro minerals, also known as trace minerals, that we don't need as much of, like iodide, iron, lithium, zinc, etc. And with these minerals work synergistically and antagonistically with each other. So they work with and also against each other, depending on who they are and what they do. So it's really important to remember that if you're getting too much of one, you might be working against another. And so working with a nutritional therapist or a doctor and getting lab tests, etc., done are a great way to figure out how to have all of these properly in place. The sixth and last nutritional foundation is hydration, otherwise known as water. And water is the most important nutrient that we could ever put inside of our bodies. It comprises half of our total body mass, and it controls so many different things like lubricating our joints and getting rid of toxins in the form of urine, controlling our body temperature in the form of sweating and transporting nutrients, etc. There's so many things go on and on about it. And it's really important that we know where to source, obviously from water, but also sourcing it from fruits and vegetables or other ways that we can ingest and get enough hydration. Unfortunately, most of us are chronically dehydrated, and due to our stressful lives that we're living nowadays, we often ignore the typical signs that would be seen as far as that we're dehydrated, like headaches and fatigue and anxiety and brain fog and cravings and so many things like that. And so also paying attention too that we drink a lot of alcohol, coffee, and tea, which are diuretics and also make us more dehydrated. And over time, too much dehydration can cause things like constipation, joint pain, heartburn, etc., and really have a massive impact on things like our cardiovascular system and our skeletal system, etc., and it can eventually lead to death if not properly regulated. So when you're drinking a glass of water, also remember that electrolytes go a long way, and also for us to absorb it, so a little pinch of sea salt goes a long way.